Karen Gatley. She is a HR expert and founder of Corporate Dojo. And Karen is going to talk to us about how to survive the Christmas party, work party. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Karen, we are in that mode very much at the moment. Some of us have had them already, but there's a lot going to happen this week as most corporates, end up closing up on Thursday or Friday. There's a lot of conversation about, we've heard in the past about bad behaviour that has come back to haunt people because they've abused alcohol, made some inappropriate commentary, etc. How do you survive the Christmas work party?
Yeah, that's entirely right. I think, people are far wiser to the fact that there are some real danger zones, and, obviously at the extreme end of the spectrum is that people get hurt. But also it's about your reputation and your career. There's all too many examples of people, having to rebuild trust and respect in their relationships. So I think it all starts with being aware that it is an extension of the workplace, and so all of the expectations around behaviour and conduct actually go with you to that venue. And, it's important to keep your reputation and obviously your body intact.
Well, the other thing is too, you have to remember, just like you have to face your girlfriends or your family or your mates after you've had a big night out, you have to face your work colleagues, and sometimes there is also clients at these functions or partners of colleagues. It's not just the immediate people you work with, but it can extend to people that are third parties that have an impression of you, who one day may have been potentially an employer.
That's entirely right. There's again lots of examples I can think of where people have built a reputation across their industry for behaving in certain ways, and obviously Christmas is just one time. There's racing, spring racing carnival certainly in Melbourne's a big one, and lots of different times of the year where people are interacting with their clients and colleagues in relaxed event kind of situations. And you can build a reputation across the industry for being somebody who might be fun in the moment at the party, but isn't to be trusted to behave professionally.
How do you handle a situation where you are the person who is in control and you see someone that you care for in the work environment party behaving badly or embarrassing themselves, and how do you manage to try and help them extrapolate themselves from the situation and avoid further embarrassment?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great question, because I think, it is about keeping an eye out for your colleagues and observing, where they're going. And in an ideal scenario, you actually intervened earlier. Certainly as an HR director, when I was working in that kind of role, there was plenty of times where I had to actually go up to somebody and say, look, you're starting to behave in ways that are quite noticeable, quite loud, quite inappropriate, whatever it might be. And most people recognise, unless they're, of course, completely inebriated and incapable of being reasonable anymore, most people recognise that, okay, there's probably a good warning sign and I need to steer away.
That's a really interesting point too, because with responsible alcohol serving, etc., you'd hope that things wouldn't get to that point where they would be so inebriated they don't understand. But we're not only talking about alcohol these days, are we? Because there is a lot of illicit drugs around, and often a party time is an excuse to try something or to explore things that you may not have been confident doing all year. And that can lead to real dangers, spiked drinks, all sorts of things.
Yeah, well, that's right. And again, that's why, employers do need to be proactive. It's not about just hoping and holding your breath that nobody does anything inappropriate or nobody gets hurt. So, again, it is important to educate the team about the dangers. And clearly you can't control everything that people do, but you can certainly step in if you observe people behaving in ways that are a danger to themselves or other people. So it's important to have somebody who's in charge at the party. In my view, the leadership team absolutely are all on duty, as is the HR team. And often there's value in having an event manager who's able to, keep an eye on the team and intervene if they think it's appropriate or necessary.
So an example I just give you. So it's Friday afternoon. You've decided your work Christmas party is going to be a lunch, and you have, say, chosen a venue that's outside of town, and you've bussed everyone there, and, it's been a beautiful lunch at 3:30, you put them all back on the bus, and then a few of them or all of them decides that they're going to carry on at a local bar or in a club eventually, etc. When does it stop being your responsibility as the employer, but they're still with their colleagues and things get out of hand? How do you manage that, especially if you're not there?
Entirely right. Again, a great question, because I think there's a number of layers of steps that employers can and should take. I think as a starting point, calling an official end to an event, thanking everybody for attending, let everybody know it's now over officially. That's when you need to be careful around who then goes with those team members, because if there's members of the leadership team again there, if they, for example, get out the company credit card and continue to pay for the after party, then it's very much likely to be seen as an extension of the first event. That's right. So employers, again, need to educate managers that, don't put yourself in that situation. If individuals want to spend their own personal time continuing on, it needs to very much be a new event that's in no way sponsored, encouraged or supported by the employer. Otherwise, absolutely that obligation continues. We deal with examples where employers invite people back to their own personal residence and encourage an ongoing, of drinking. And, in that situation, you're very much opening yourself up to risk if somebody does get hurt.
What happens, Karen, when you have a situation that you might be the person in the group, that you're an employee who's a little bit shyer and maybe doesn't drink, doesn't sort of engage in that? How do you sort of fit in and not feel awkward and not stand out in negative, feel like you're the odd man out or that you're the party pooper, those sort of things? Because sometimes people tend to do something to be accepted by everybody else, and that doesn't really matter whether you're a teenager or sometimes in a work environment you might be the new kid on the block, or that everyone else is so much senior, so you feel pressure in your own mind, not necessarily because others have done it for you. Yeah, look, and my advice around that is that, at the end of the day, remembering that strength is typically something that other people respect and value. So, strength of character to say, look, happy to be here, but that's not activities that I want to participate in, is going to send a message that, you know who you are and you know what you do or don't want to participate in, so long as you're remaining friendly and engaging and willing to interact with people. But again, if the behaviours get to the point where it's just inappropriate or it's, a risk to you or others, then again, standing your ground and saying, that's not acceptable conduct and I'm walking away from it is an important thing just in life, let alone your career. So, if you're working for an employer at the extreme end who just behaves badly, then, I would question whether or not it's the right place for you to be. Exactly. Because the other thing is you can always excuse yourself. You can say, look, I'm sorry, I have another function to attend to, or I've got an early start. There's always a way of actually taking control over yourself, isn't it?
Well, that's right.
You can't be made to do something that you don't want to do. And if you feel that enormous pressure, then you've made a valid point. Maybe it's the wrong place to actually be working, because no one should feel that, whether it be at the workday or at a function that the work is organised.
That's entirely right. No, so I think that self-respect, that strength to create boundaries, whether it be feeling pushed into partying, or whether it be not tolerating bullying behaviour, or no matter what it is, if there is a behaviour in the workplace that makes you very uncomfortable, you need to stand up to that and take action. But again, back into the Christmas party example, it's just about you being willing to engage and, respectfully be grateful for the party that is being provided by being present and making an effort. But as you say, it's absolutely reasonable to, when it's of a certain period of time that you think you've, been there, you've invested in the event, then absolutely you can check out and go home. You're not captive. You don't have to be there.
No. And I think that I have some notes that it was sent to me from you, and one of the things that I really love is number 5, keep your clothes on. I think that's a wise thing about most people most days.
That's exactly right. But again, as you point out, people get carried away, and we see all sorts of things like people deciding they're going to, rip off the shirt on the dance floor, or go for the nudie run because it's funny, or go skinny dipping, or, and again, the reality is it's really going to serve you well the next day in the office, and, having that.
I think that the other thing is too, don't you think, that people think sometimes that, well, this is the last day of the working week, the working day, the year. We're not coming back and seeing anyone for another couple of, the office is closed for a fortnight. No one's going to see us for a fortnight. No one will remember all of this, but it will always be the stuff remembered. I remember in the 70s and 80s, the most common thing was young boys taking their jocks off and having their bum photographed on the photocopier because they thought that was, hilarious.
Exactly.
And it didn't go down well then, and it certainly wouldn't go down well now. And do you also, in the current day of social media, is actually be aware that people, you may not be aware someone's photographing you and putting it up on social media.
That's right. And so these days, those stories stick, they linger. They're going to stay around for a very long time. So, again, you need to be very mindful. Is this something that I would actually be comfortable with anybody knowing that I'm doing? And is it, something I would be happy to have in the media, because it's essentially what can happen. So, it's absolutely key that we understand it. Our reputation will go with us. And people don't forget stories, especially stories where you make a fool of yourself that makes them laugh. They're not going to forget it in a hurry.
Yeah. Karen, thank you so much for your time. I think wise words. And at the end of the day, if you can't remember what you're doing, stop it. Don't do it. Because it will come to haunt you, I'm sure.
That's right.
Thank you, and have a very safe Christmas.
Thank you too.
Karen Gatley she's an HR expert and founder of Corporate Dojo. It really is sound advice, and there's many of you that will be doing Christmas parties this week and will feel a bit relaxed and think, oh no, an extra. Just be really careful, because social media has changed the way that we then remember things long after the event, because there is now evidence of it all the time. Our number is 8223 0000. Please give us a